Hello.
Hi, Becca. How are you?
I'm good. Is it Natalie or Nat Nat?
Whichever one you feel comfortable with.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. I don't know you well enough for a nickname, but you know what? You call yourself Nat Nat, so I like it. I like how it falls trippingly off the tongue, actually.
The majority of people call me Nat Nat. My friend's
Okay.
son, about, oh gosh, back in 2002, I believe it was. That's when he was born. Um, he couldn't say the L's, so he gave me the nickname Nat Nat. And
Oh, and it
so,
stuck.
yeah, and I have a friend that's Natalie. So when we're together, it makes it more easier too. Okay, you're Nat Nat, you're Natalie.
Yeah,
And then when we
yeah.
have a third Natalie in the crew, it makes it so
Oh,
Natalie's a
you
very calm.
actually do have three from
Yeah,
time to
yeah,
time?
we've been
Oh,
around where there's been three Natalies, yeah. So and people think like, oh, you're making it up, and it's like, no, it's we're really all Natalies. So yeah. So the nickname, I know some people I use it still because I want it to be childlike and that people can see the playfulness.
oh, that's lovely. I see that. Yeah, to be of service, that's the venue, the entree that you use a lot of the time. Just you're so gentle. You're so the authenticity just comes through everything that you do. So it's lovely to meet you in person. Yeah.
Yes, you too, you too. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Welcome to the Lift Oneself podcast, where we break mental health stigmas through conversations. I'm your host, Nat Nat, and we dive into topics about trauma and how it impacts the nervous system. Yet we don't just leave you there. We share insights and tools of self-care, meditation, and growth that help you be curious about your own biology. Your presence matters. Please like and subscribe to our podcast. Help our community grow. Let's get into this. Oh, and please remember to be kind to yourself. Welcome to the Lift Oneself podcast. Becca, I'm so thankful you're here with me.
Oh, Nat Nat, it's truly my pleasure.
Would you be able to come into a meditation so that we can center and ground ourselves and connect our hearts together?
I would love that.
And for the listeners, you're able to do the same. If you're not able to close your eyes, then just listening to the prompts of what I'm using for the meditation. So, Becca, I'd ask you to close your eyes and begin breathing in and out through your nose. And just watch your breath go in and out through your nose, not trying to control it, just allowing to see how the breath is going in and out, allowing yourself to come into your body, into your senses, be aware of what's going on internally, whatever sensations or feelings that may be coming up, allow them to come up. You're safe to feel, you're safe to let go, while keeping your awareness with your breath, going deeper into your body, staying with your breath, going deeper into your body. When you're ready, I'm going to ask you to gently open your eyes. How's your heart doing?
Steady and true.
Can you let the listeners know who Becca is?
Sure. Becca is a well-intentioned, motivated, healed individual who helps stressed, stuck, and traumatized individuals process and release self-defeating emotions and pain so that they can effectively and gracefully handle any personal or interpersonal situation. I support people in becoming emotionally resilient, as I have for myself.
Can you let us know how you started doing this kind of work? What brought you along on this path?
Mm. We talk about seekers, and the reason we are seekers is because we are in our suffering and we don't want to feel that way anymore. And I came out of a very difficult childhood and grew into a young adult, a mature adult, and turned over a lot of rocks looking for solutions to crippling anxiety and depression and mercurial anger and a lot of other emotions. And I pursued a lot of therapy, but it didn't seem to be the answer for me, even though in a lot of respects in our culture, it really seems to be the one go-to. And I also dived deep into new age modalities and therapies. But the piece about new age oftentimes is don't think these dark, deep shadow thoughts. Think light, airy thoughts and stay there. But the fact of the matter is if we haven't merged the two of them, the shadow side is going to come out and and launch at any time, and we have no say over that. So if we don't integrate the light and the shadow part, we are destined to continue to be slaves to our emotions. And that's once I healed myself from that, there I was a television producer, and I didn't want to do that job anymore. All my life, I had been in television news, National Public Radio as a producer, reporter, anchor. And for me, when I healed, I healed, and the compassion just emerged. It came up seeing other people so hurt and in such a state of suffering that I said, wow, I have an answer. There may be a lot of answers out there, but I have an answer that was very efficient and efficacious for me. And I see a lot of burning bodies around me who are in deep suffering, and I want to help them. And I went into this work that I encountered called emotional liberation. It's fairly new. It is about 10 years old, and it's about using your difficult emotions as your inner guidance system. And so being able to be with your emotions and how to be with them and why you're with them and why they're there. So you learn to navigate what you're feeling and why you're feeling it so that you can understand that and process it and release it, letting it go.
Yeah, beautifully said. Uh, there's this narrative of toxic positivity where it's everything's supposed to be positive. Just look at the good side, just look at this. And it's like, well, if you only allow yourself to do a la carte with things, you're not going to feel the full spectrum. And to be human means to feel the full spectrum. And unfortunately, a lot in spirituality, new age, anger has such a bad rap where it's like anger is very healthy, and learn to befriend the anger to find out what it's trying to tell you. There's values, boundaries, something is being activated. And this is why there's this immense energy that's coming up that's trying to give you a message, but you're not willing to listen to it. And as you said, it hijacks your behavior, and it starts you do certain actions that later on you have shame and guilt because you aren't willing to listen. You aren't willing to face the pain. You aren't willing to feel the feelings because there's a narrative of whatever indoctrination there may be that this is bad rather than, you know what, it's coming up. Let me engage with it. And it's very overwhelming at first. And that's why it's really beneficial to have someone there to help you regulate that nervous system and be able to, go inside your portal and find out, what does this mean? And what is it trying to tell me? Which I find, like you said, the Western modalities, they only go superficial. There's no depth of really understanding trauma, understanding the nervous system, and understanding what really emotions do internally.
No, so well said, Nat Nat. Um, with therapy, with talk therapy, that's what we're doing. We're engaging with our mind. When I used to go to my therapy session, I would be driving and going, well, what am I going to talk about today? And the mind fools you. What we really need to do is and this is the work I do, is get the mind out of the way so that we can drop down into that deep inner knowing, that intuition, so that we can understand what we're feeling and why we're feeling it. And everything you said is true in regard to people going, well, I don't want to go there. But what I find in my work also is that there are a lot of people who do not know how to go there. So what I offer in my work is a connect the dots, and we start from the very beginning on getting to know your emotions, and that's where we feed the mind. Is the mind wants to know about these things? Okay, academically and intellectually, I understand. What we have is a palette of 7 difficult emotions, and anxiety and fear, anger, depression, grief and sadness. We have desire, which is neediness. And then, of course, the big ones, guilt and shame. Shame, of course, is that sense of unworthiness, and that I'm never good, I'm never deserving, I shouldn't even be here. I mean, that's how I was raised in a very pressure cooker childhood. And it was a lot of rejection. So I learned my lesson brilliantly. If I was rejected by those who were supposed to love and care give for me, then what was I worth? And that was what was sealed into me, that gee, if they said that, then that's a belief that I clung on to and just embodied, was that I would never be good enough. But and that's why I rose so high in television. I do believe on hindsight now, is because I felt so unworthy that I needed to try extra hard to get those goodies from other people, because I had no internal resources. So now that I look at it, in 2020 vision, right, is always great vision, is that I was just, even though I was very good at what I did, let there be no mistake. I love to write. I love to report. I really enjoyed all of that, and I am good at that. But the fact of the matter was that there was a great dimension of it where I like to be on air, so I could get from people, you're smart, you're a good writer, you're pretty, all of this, and it was because I didn't have anything here, so it was a really good go-to for me until it wasn't anymore. And once I moved through this work, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and then the creator and developer of it credentialed me as one of the first, or the first, emotional liberation, besides him, facilitators in the world. And that is when it became very clear to me why I had been doing that. I mean, aside from having a successful career, there was that piece when you tease it out, that I was just hungry for love.
Yeah. I say a lot of people will understand the sense of wanting to belong, wanting to feel like you
Yes.
fit in, that you're a part of a tribe, because that rejection just makes you feel like you're ostracized. So anything that will give you a sense of belonging and, accolades and appreciation and attention, that is what we all crave as human beings. We want to feel seen, we want to feel validated and feel that we have a sense of worth. Yet when you really do your inner work, you recognize that's already your identity. You don't have to go seek it in your actions and in your doings and in your interactions. But it's a journey
Yeah.
to reconnect into that when you've experienced trauma, because there's a part that cuts you off and has you seeking outside rather than understanding what is already within you and really helping. And that's how I help my clients, is the journey coming back into the body, which feels very uncomfortable because they're not understanding the emotions. Like you said, they don't have verbiage. They're like, I don't know even how to articulate how I'm feeling. And like I explained to them, well, this is an emotion you've never allowed yourself to feel before. So of course it's foreign, it feels alien, and you don't have language. So have grace for yourself to go through this experience and be able to go through the tsunamis of what that really looks like, but begin surfing it and knowing that you
Mm.
have the capacity to be able to experience it. And uh, it's a privilege, to do this sacred work. I want to tap into the plant medicine and what
Mhm.
brought you into that dimension, and what is it that you see as the benefits for people?
That's a big question and an important one too. So I was, it was organic. It was an organic unfolding. Way back in college, and I'm a woman of a certain age, so that was a few decades ago. When I was in college, somebody turned me on to cannabis, and I started smoking it and felt better. The anxiety calmed way down, and it felt really good. And so what you could say is, started self-medicating with cannabis, and I did it all the way through decades, through thick and thin, through legal and non-legal, and it helped. But what I found is that it was fleeting. So while I was under the influence of the cannabis, I felt better. But then when I wasn't anymore, the feelings, the emotions, particularly the anxiety, just came flooding back. So fast forward to 2014, 10 years ago, and I encountered, and that's another story unto itself, but I encountered emotional liberation. And I started this work. I had an experience of it in a Kundalini yoga studio. I didn't know from Kundalini, and it was all kind of weird. But I thought, okay, I had nothing to lose. It was it was actually in a yoga studio that had a bunch of classes going on at any one time. And I said, I'm here for the hatha. And they said, well, I'm sorry, but that's a full class. I said, well, I'm here for the yin yoga then. I'm sorry, it's full. And the woman said, well, what about the Kundalini? It's like, oh, okay. So I went in there, and the teacher was teaching from a book called Emotional Liberation. And it was an hour and a half, and it was the most spectacular rush of energy moving through my body with all these, and it was sensational, and it was sensationally difficult, but something was moving, Nat Nat, and that's what I wanted. It was like something is happening. And so when I got done, I felt so clean and so cleared that I said, oh my God, I want more of this. And so I looked into this book, and I was in Florida at the time, and the creator and developer of Emotional Liberation lived in LA. And I got a hold of him, and he was starting an online program with this. And I went into it, a year-long program. And there were about 12 people in the class. And through the course, and I told him about this, and he said, "Well, I don't do that sort of thing, but it's totally up to you." It's very open-minded about the cannabis, and I would take just a little bit when I did the practices, and whoa, there would just be this whoosh of energy. And I tracked myself along with the others in the online group. There were about 12 of us, and I saw that I was accelerating. I was accelerated in this work that I was doing. It was quite interesting.
And so what I discovered right there and then was the spiritual dimension of cannabis. And so I was in Denver then at the time, and I started engaging. Now that I was a practitioner back in 2016, I started cannabis elevation ceremonies. So it was emotional liberation, and everybody would just the trick is to smoke or vape or whatever. People started taking edibles, but you have to be very careful because we're not that it's just a tool. And if you take too much or you get too stoned, then what happens is you just get you lose it, you numb yourself from the effects. And so when used very judiciously, cannabis can amplify the emotion or emotions that we want to bring up. And it's a beautiful combination of CBD and THC. I always recommend twice as much CBD as THC within this framework, because the CBD research shows is that it calms the fight or flight syndrome. And so to be able to, calm down and then amplify the emotion was just really magic. So you're stirring up the energy and you're calling it up in order to process it and let it go. So I did this, and I started teaching masterclass courses throughout COVID for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And my earbuds are coming out, and I started including microdosing psilocybin.
Okay.
So the cannabis was an option, but I was teaching people how to microdose also, and became somewhat of a specialist around microdosing psilocybin for this reason. And we're talking about energy medicine here. And we know about trauma. We know that trauma lodges in, the tissues of our bodies, the nervous system. I mean, and of course, the question is how to get it out, right? But if you talk about our energy body, it holds the trauma also. It holds the trauma also. And I found that that shame was a huge piece for me, rejection. And it was deep. All the work I had done, there was still this layer that I couldn't quite get at. And so the microdosing psilocybin just kind of went in and grabbed that layer of trauma and pulled it up to let it go. And it was aha. So since then, I have included the microdosing, and I'm also, because over here in Portugal, I have been had so many requests for macro dosing that I have. In fact, I have a retreat in October of 2024 coming up where people can either choose microdosing or they can choose two macro dose journeys. And they're all encased in the framework of emotional liberation. So I'm looking forward to that, and also doing that work with clients currently over here in Portugal.
It's important work, and the results that are coming out from people doing a session or a ceremony with the plant medicine, and that it's rectified things. There's a conversation or dialogue that needs to be had, that how much is Big Pharma going to interrupt that, because there's no profit in people, selecting the plant medicine, getting the results that are lasting. Whereas if you're on a medication for the rest of your life, there's profit in that. And yet people aren't getting the healing and the tools needed to navigate their everyday life and their inner world. So thank you for facilitating these things for people so that they have that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the acknowledgement. And no question about Big Pharma. I'm trained as a clinical nutritionist. Also, I'm a registered dietitian. So I have been involved in nutrients and supplements for many, many years, since I was in my mid-30s, when I went back to school and studied nutrition. And so it has been, the natural supplement market versus Big Pharma, because there's lots of things you can do to rectify ailments with supplements as opposed to pharmaceuticals. And so there's always been that struggle. And this is just the latest one on the big pharma front.
I'm going to bring you into a reflective question. I'm going to ask you to bring your awareness right now and bring it back to your 18-year-old self. And you have 3 words to tell your 18-year-old self to carry you along the journey to now. What would those 3 words be?
And I want to speak in sentences, but 3 words is it's going to be all right is 4 words.
It's fine. And why is that?
Because at that age and earlier and older, I didn't know if it was going to be all right. I didn't know if life was worth living. And so, in the space and time continuum, we can, as you've just invited me to do, to reach back to our younger self and actually reach out to our older, wiser self as well, and learn from that and be able to give advice to that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all in the now. It's all in the present and understanding. Once you can harness your nervous system and really understand it, that it's a wild stallion and you don't tame wild stallions, you just learn how to ride them so that you can navigate the power of it. And I thank you for the work that you're doing. Where can the listeners find you?
Sure. I think that, Nat, the easiest place to go is simply my website, which is my name, and my name is Becca Williams. So it's beccawilliams.org. And that's everything you need to understand, because that's the portal for all of my work. If you can make it there, then you know that you can get in touch with me through email or however that might look, and even schedule a time to talk with me if you'd like, to just find out where we could go, what we could do, if we're a good fit, sort of thing. And also the October retreat as well.
Exactly. I think there might be some listeners that will want to come see. I want to ask you, is there any constraints being in Portugal compared to being in the States and offering these ceremony sessions?
So what's interesting is that Portugal has adopted a unique approach to managing drug use. And it actually is a standout from the policies of many other countries. In 2001, Portugal decriminalized the possession and consumption of all drugs for personal use. And this means that individuals, found with the drugs for personal use, they say up to a 10-day supply. Try to figure that out. But up to a 10-day supply, it doesn't matter. The activity is not illegal, but operates in an undefined regulatory space. So we're able to take advantage of that over here in this country.
For any listeners that are coming from different countries, is there any requirements, or is this explained on your website, what the steps that they need to take to come to this retreat?
Yes, it's all there. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's all there on the retreat page.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for this enlightening and enriching conversation. I thank you for the light and the alchemy that you've done. You've taken the impurities from your childhood and you've offered gold to other people and allowing them to have a space to come into that healing. So thank you for everything that you're doing, Becca. It's truly appreciated.
You have a way with words, from impurities to gold. Thank you. It's a nice way to look at it. It's a lovely blessing. Thank you.
Remember to be kind to yourself.
Always, always. Thank you for being with me. What a pleasure to get to know you.
Likewise. Hey, you made it all the way here. I appreciate you and your time. If you found value in this conversation, please share it out. If there was somebody that popped into your mind, take action and share it out with them. It possibly may not be them that will benefit. It's that they know somebody that will benefit from listening to this conversation. So please take action and share out the podcast. You can find us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok under Lift Oneself. And if you want to inquire about the work that I do and the services that I provide to people, come over on my website, come into a discovery call, liftoneself.com. Until next time, please remember to be kind and gentle with yourself. You matter.